Hello, friends. I'm Pastor Lori Bayan. This past week's news has been full of reports of unfolding tragedy, both near and far. In light of such sobering news, one might receive today's text either as a slap in the face or as a naive urging to bury one's head in the sand. I believe that it is neither of these. Instead, in the Beatitudes, I hear a timeless call to adopt a faithful, realistic, balanced perspective in the face of difficulty. A perspective which cultivates compassion in us and which engenders healing of that which is hurt and broken in our midst.
Matthew 5, 1-16. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything, except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven."
Would you join me in prayer? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, Lord, for you are our strength and our salvation. Amen.
Do you remember the various controversies reported in the news eons ago about whether it was acceptable for the 10 Commandments to be displayed in public buildings? I almost feel nostalgia for what qualified as heated debate back then, given the quality of rancor that finds its way into the news and on social media today. I recall one of my colleagues remarking back then that what would be truly revolutionary would be a public posting of the Beatitudes. It could be reasonably argued that these really are the foundational teachings of Christianity, however unpopular they might be, however difficult to embrace wholeheartedly. In our pleasure-seeking, consumer-driven society, these words of Jesus should really give us pause. Now, one place the Beatitudes are on display, and in beautiful fashion, is the Roman Catholic Church of the Beatitudes in northern Israel. The church sits on a hill overlooking the Sea of Galilee, near the town of Capernaum, on the traditional site commemorating Jesus' giving of the Sermon on the Mount. This site has been visited by pilgrims for over 1,600 years. Although the current church was built between 1936 and 1938, near the ruins of another church dating to the Byzantine era. The modern church is octagonally shaped, the 8 sides representing the 8 Beatitudes. If you look up into the gold mosaic dome, you can see windows below, on which each of the Beatitudes are written in Latin. And if you look carefully, you will discover where the word beatitude comes from. It is the Latin beati, the first word of each verse. That word is usually translated blessed in English, but it can also mean rich, or, as the Common English Bible puts it, happy. This variation in translations was topic of thoughtful discussion in our recent Wednesday Zoom Bible study group. I asked the group for permission to share some of these wise reflections of theirs. Pam suggested that happiness is usually associated with transitory things, but that being blessed, in her mind, is more lasting, something that emerges from godly character. Chris reflected that the tough conditions that Jesus listed as blessings are experiences that bring us closer to God. And Karen highlighted that especially in verse 10, which she reads as about suffering in the midst of the struggle for justice. Denise said, dealing with pain by turning to God makes one's faith and one's relationship with God stronger. It also makes us more compassionate if we've struggled ourselves. This led us to discussion of the next chapter's lesson from Mr. Rogers and the power of gratitude. Anita Knight Coonley, author of the book we are studying, calls gratitude relationship glue. While she starts with an examination of how regular expressions of gratitude help preserve relationships between romantic partners, and moves on to the benefits of cultivating gratitude for our personal well-being, I couldn't help but wonder, especially as I considered the impact of Mr. Rogers' ministry of kindness, what positive effects such practices might have in our neighborhoods and the world around us if we would do as he did. It strikes me as significant that Jesus' list of Beatitudes is followed by his also well-known sayings on salt and light, presenting the idea that our good actions permeate the world around us. I'm reminded of Mr. Rogers saying to so many exactly what his grandfather said to him when he was a child. You have made this day special just by being you. When we adopt an attitude of gratitude, it shows, it shines. Now, maybe some people are born with this, but many of us need to work at it, and that's where the wisdom of the Beatitudes has much to teach us. Finding blessedness in every circumstance, and not just the pleasant ones, is where this kind of character is forged. Gratitude is pretty easy to stir up in easy times, and when we spend time in nature, using our senses to soak up the colors and scents and sounds, and that's an excellent habit to build into one's day. But we can also scan the environment for qualities in people that reveal the beauty inside. Mr. Rogers was on the lookout for good things, and he found them, writes Dr. Knight Coonley. Like an intrepid fisher person, he looked deeply into the world and the people around him, and he pointed out these good qualities, the intelligence, the kindness, the best that was inside. He not only marveled at these things for his own pleasure, but he gave voice to them, both for the benefit of the person affirmed, but also for his audience, aware that that was happening both when the cameras were rolling and when they weren't. His wonderment and appreciation for his neighborhood was a kind of relationship glue that spread beyond the television world into the lives of countless more who were influenced by his example. This is a choice, someone in our Wednesday group observed. It's up to us to find it. I took the Beatitudes with me on my camping trip last week, reciting them to myself from memory as I sat in our campsite, hiked in the woods, and beheld the ocean waves crashing on rocks. I also took with me the meditative practice of forest bathing, something I came across a couple years ago when preparing a Season of Creation sermon series, and to which I am likely to return next month. A key principle of forest bathing is recognizing that we human beings are not apart from nature, but rather we are nature. There's something both comforting and humbling in this. As I reflected, Jesus' words washed over me. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. If we are not really the most important creatures on the earth, if we can let go of that notion, we will walk in beauty and harmony. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. If we do not go about acting as if we are the center of the universe, how much more relationship glue might be produced in our communities? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If we don't seek after attention for ourselves, but instead draw attention to what matters to God, to justice and mercy for the least of these, there will be attention. Indeed, there will be persecution, harassment, but it will be for the movement of God's purposes, not ours. Blessed are you when you are persecuted, for just so were the prophets treated before you. This is what it means to be part of the kingdom of heaven, to be pure in heart, to see God at work in the neighborhood, and to participate in that blessing. Back at home, I met a Mr. Rogers type of neighbor the other day, as I sat on the step pulling weeds in my front yard. I heard his approach and lifted my head to greet this man whom I'd never met before. His first words to me, "Thank you for your garden. I get so much pleasure from seeing it as I walk down this street." I deflected the praise, saying the creative work was my husband's doing and not my own. We exchanged a few more pleasantries before he went on his way. That little moment of connection warmed my heart. As I returned to my weeding, I marveled at how well prepared this stranger had been, ready to engage in this simple kindness with his words, in a way that I, distracted as I was by my task, had not been. He was primed for gratitude, and took the opening that my smile and hello had provided as an opportunity to express sincere and simple appreciation. This neighbor's example humbled me. How might I thought, make myself more ready to sow such daily seeds of grace? Dr. Knight Coonley suggests a number of priming practices inspired by Mr. Rogers' own habits, such as keeping a gratitude journal, sharing an end-of-day praise report with a loved one, taking an assessment of your signature strengths, writing thank you notes to people who have loved you into becoming, or thinking of one thing you could do today that your future self would thank you for. After reading this chapter about Mr. Rogers and gratitude, in our Wednesday discussion, Denise made a declaration. "I want to up my game," she said. It was a new revelation, she explained, to regard the goodness and kindness of other people as a gift from God, to see these blessings in the same way that she is able to see and appreciate beauty in nature as God's gifts. Last week, I came upon a blog in which the author bemoaned the popularity of the saying, "I'm blessed." He argued that people saying "I'm blessed" seem to imply that they are somehow more deserving than others of the good things that they are thankful for. Furthermore, using such God language reinforces a sense of spiritual superiority. This author advocated for the alternatives "I'm lucky" or "I'm grateful" rather than "I'm blessed." I get his point, especially when the blessings to which many people refer look more like worldly definitions of wealth, fame, and pleasure. The Beatitudes' perspective on blessedness, however, reflects riches that are available to us all, regardless of our external circumstances and regardless of our social status, if only we will open our eyes to see those blessings, and if only we will make the choice to generate gratitude. May you be blessed with the deep wealth of understanding life's true richness, and may you practice that blessing by shining a light of appreciation in your neighborhood, in your relationships, and with friends you haven't yet met. Amen.